This tutorial is on the digestive system. Now, the digestive system is 6 to 7 meters long, and it allows the food that we eat to be broken down into smaller components so that they can be used by our body. Digestion provides the body with vital carbohydrates, sugars, proteins, fats, vitamins and minerals, as well as fiber and water that comes from our food. Now, digestion begins in the mouth. Chewing your food breaks down each mouthful into smaller, easy to swallow pieces. Now, we call this mechanical digestion because we are physically changing the shape of the food. Your body produces roughly a litre of saliva every day. Now, you start to salivate when you smell food. Now, that's because your nose is so close to your mouth. When your brain smells that there's food around, it tells your salivary glands. Now, here's a picture of your salivary glands. So you have some that are here under your tongue, and then you have a very large one that's near your ear, and this is the little duct that goes in. So that comes in at the back of your teeth, but up at the top. Now, saliva contains enzymes that start to break down your food. Now, this is called chemical digestion because saliva is a chemical. Now, in this case, it contains the enzyme called amylase. Now, amylase helps to break down your food, and it starts that right in the beginning in your mouth. Now, saliva also helps to lubricate the food so that it's easy to slide down your esophagus in one small ball rather than having dry, chunky bits that get stuck. Now, we call that small ball of food that gets swallowed down your esophagus, we call it a bolus. So if we have a look here, here is a diagram of a bolus, and this is the esophagus, so as it goes down. Now, when you swallow, circular muscles around your esophagus, they relax and contract in a wave-like motion. Now, we call this motion peristalsis. Now, it's the reason that this bolus of food moves down towards your stomach. Now, gravity has nothing to do with it. If you were to swallow food upside down, I don't recommend it just in case you choke, but if you swallow food upside down, the motion of peristalsis will still move it towards your stomach, okay? It'll stop the food from falling out and coming out of your mouth or even choking on it. Now, have a look at this diagram here just to show you the positioning of your esophagus. So here's the mouth, and at the very back is your esophagus, and at the front is your windpipe. So if you feel your neck right now, if you just tilt your head back and you feel your neck, you'll feel these ridges. Now, that's the ridges of your windpipe, the cartilage rings of your windpipe to hold your windpipe open. Now, you can't actually feel your esophagus. Your esophagus is directly behind that. So I just want to really make sure that it's clear in your mind that the esophagus and the windpipe are two different tubes. Okay, so this diagram shows you the windpipe in white leading to your lungs, and the esophagus in this creamy colour leading all the way down into your stomach. So now this bolus has gone down your esophagus. So here we have our lovely picture of our digestive system that I've stolen. So check out all the watermarks. Has gone down our esophagus into the stomach, and this is the stomach here. Now, the muscles that surround your stomach churn your food. Now, that churning of your food is another example of mechanical digestion, so it's physically smushing up your food. Now, it mixes with gastric juices, and it turns it into a thick soup-like consistency. Now, we call this chyme. So right here, chyme. Now, there are 2 litres of gastric juice in your stomach. Now, it's made up of an enzyme called pepsin. Now, pepsin helps to break down fat. And there's also hydrochloric acid. Now, hydrochloric acid is a really strong acid, and it's there to kill the bacteria on our food. So we have natural bacteria that grows on our hands. Bacteria grows on everything. It's on everything. We can't sterilize everything that we eat. So our stomach does that for us because you don't want to pass anything harmful into the rest of your digestive system, especially into your intestines. Now, because this acid is so strong, the lining of your stomach releases a special mucus. Now, I just want to skip ahead to this next slide. So here is a diagram of the cells of your stomach lining. So here are the individual cells, and this stringy bit here is a bit of mucus. Now you can see the mucus all through here. And what it does is it coats, now this stomach has nothing in it. So this is why we can take a nice clear shot of it. Normally the mucus is all over it and you can't see the cells. Now that mucus is really thick and it stops the acid from burning through your stomach cells, because if it did, you'd get a hole in it. Okay, so the acid is really, really strong. So moving back to that slide. Now the entrance and exit of your stomach, so the entrance, this is the liver, so the entrance is just behind the liver covers it, and the exit of the stomach are controlled by a ring of muscles called a sphincter. Now here I have a diagram of someone who's had an endoscopy. Now endoscopy is a camera that goes down your mouth, down your esophagus, and it's having a look here at the pylori sphincter, which is the exit sphincter of your stomach. Now they prevent the chyme from moving up into the esophagus or down into the intestines while it's still being churned up, because as the muscles squish it, you don't want it being squished out. Okay, you want all the chyme to stay into the stomach. Now sometimes, if the stomach detects that there's something wrong, maybe you've swallowed a rotten oyster or some sour milk, the sphincter to the entrance of your stomach will open and allow you to vomit back up your food. Now the scientific term for vomiting is actually called reverse peristalsis. Now peristalsis is the action that your esophagus has to drive food from your mouth to your stomach. So obviously reverse peristalsis will be your stomach up to your mouth. Now after around 4 hours of churning, the chyme gets squeezed through this exit sphincter. I'll just skip ahead here. Churning, it gets squeezed into the duodenum. Now the duodenum is the start of your small intestine. Now having a look at our diagram here, it's just this part here of your small intestine. Now it's here that the chyme gets mixed with juices produced by the liver, and the liver is this organ here, and the pancreas, which is here. Now the liver makes bile and stores it in a special sac called a gallbladder, and that sac is here. So this is the gallbladder. Now when the chyme is in the duodenum, so when the chyme is traveling out of the stomach through the small intestine, the gallbladder releases bile through tiny little pores into the lining of the duodenum. Now bile is another enzyme that will break down fats in the food. Now the pancreas, which is here, produces pancreatic juices. Now you can see the little duct that brings those pancreatic juices from the pancreas into the duodenum. Now you would have heard me, I called it a duodenum before. Same names, just tomato, tomato. The pancreas produces pancreatic juices that help to break down the carbohydrates and proteins. Now it also helps to neutralize the hydrochloric acid that comes from the stomach. So you don't want that going all through your intestines, because it can essentially burn holes through your intestines. Really, really powerful acid. So the pancreas will produce another chemical that neutralizes and takes away the burn out of it and kind of makes it inert. And that gets released in this duodenum area. Now, the pancreas also releases something very special called insulin. Now, insulin is a chemical that controls blood sugar levels, and it also controls how the cells use their energy. And we're going to look into problems of the digestive system later, and one of these will be diabetes. Now, diabetes is a result of a lack of insulin. So now that the chyme has travelled through the duodenum, it enters fully into the small intestine, which you can see. Now the small intestine is 4 to 6 meters in length. Now it's only 3 or 4 centimeters wide. Now that's why it's called the small intestine. So as you can see, it's a lot narrower compared to the large intestine here. So it's called the small intestine. Now the small intestine is the most important organ in our digestive system. It's where all our nutrients from our food are absorbed into our bodies. So if we have a look here, this is a real view of a cross section of your small intestine. So the food will travel through here. Now, the small intestine, the walls of it are covered in really small hairs called villi. Now, so this is a graphical picture of it. Now, the villi help increase the surface area and allow for a maximum amount of nutrients to be absorbed. Now, anything that doesn't get absorbed by the small intestine passes through into the large intestine. So it will travel all down here and into our large intestine. Now, it's called the large intestine because of its width. So as you can see here, it's double the size or width of the small intestine. However, it's a lot shorter. It only does one real loop around. Chyme is made up of a lot of digestive juices and water. Now, it's the role of the large intestine to reabsorb this water along with other water-soluble vitamins and minerals. Now, there are 5 parts to our large intestine. So as you can see here, the small intestine meets the large intestine, and we begin here with our appendix and our cecum, moves up into our colon. Now, this is a large area here of our colon. We have the rectum, and finally the anus. Now, as you can see from the picture, the chyme, and now we call it stool as it enters the large intestine, gets clumped together and eventually forms the poo shape that we all recognize. Now, fecal matter accumulates in the rectum. So it accumulates in this section here until it's full, and then it passes through the anus in one bowel movement. Now, the anus is another sphincter, so it's another muscle that sort of holds the intestine shut until we're ready to go. Now, we actually have control over this sphincter so that we can actually hold our poo in until we find a bathroom. Now, as you can see here, our appendix and our cecum are quite small. Now, they're much larger in grass-eating mammals, such as cows, because grass is really hard to digest and it takes longer for the nutrients to be absorbed. Now, through evolution, as our diets changed, so did our digestive system, and it actually shrunk these parts of our large intestine. So we don't really use our appendix anymore, and our cecum is quite small. Now, we're going to look into problems that can occur with an appendix later on. Alright, so lastly, let's have a look at our poo. Now, most of it, checking out this diagram here, most of it is made up of water. It's about 60% water. Any more than that and we're heading into diarrhea territory. And again, that's something we're going to look at later. Now here, it's made up of a small quantity of bacteria. Now that's the bacteria that comes from our intestines. It's healthy bacteria. We need it in order to properly digest our food, something else that lends itself towards our chemical digestion. We also have gut lining. Now, gut lining are the dead cells from our stomach and from our intestines as they normally get replaced. And lastly, we have a small amount of undigested food. Now here, we have the Bristol stool chart. Now, this was a chart designed to basically tell you what does your body need based on what your poo looks like. So we're looking ideally for a type 3 or 4. If you're a type 1 or 2, you need some more water. And type 5 and 6, you need some more fiber, usually insoluble fiber, so stuff like green vegetables rather than grains and bran, which is soluble fiber. And lastly, if you're type 7, you've got watery stool, which is essentially you've got diarrhea. So, what now? Now, I don't want you to do the quiz just yet. Now, I know this video goes through a lot and there are a lot of details, so I want you to take the time over the next couple of days to watch this video again. Take notes, that might help you. Now, we'll be spending 2 lessons in class going through some more details of the digestive system, and I really want you to take the time to go through those lessons before attempting the quiz. So watch this video a few more times, come to class, and then we'll do the quiz. Hopefully when you have all your knowledge down pat. I'll see you in class.